everyone. So I have Sam here. I'm Sam. I mean, this is Sam here, and I have John here with me today. And John is one of my clients who just graduated from the program recently, and he was an absolute rock star in terms of being the type of client I love to work with. For starters, John was extremely committed to his goal of getting into investment banking. He worked extremely hard, and secondly, he was very resourceful in how he went about the whole process and never really let any obstacles stop him along the way. And then lastly, he was very coachable. He took what I taught him and went out and straight out executed without making any excuses. So today, I thought what I would do is invite him on this call to talk about his experiences in the program a little bit, the outcome he's been able to achieve, and also just see if he has any advice for the rest of you who are still recruiting. So, John, it's good to have you here today.
Thank you.
Now, the way that you and I met is actually pretty funny. We met because of your mom. Your mom actually found my Facebook group before you did, and then I almost ended up not letting her into the group because she doesn't have like a real profile, and I thought she was a bot. And I messaged her and asked her why she wanted to join the group, and she said, "Oh, my son is interested in getting into investment banking." And then I was like, "Oh, okay, fine, you can come in." And then next thing we knew, you were in the program. So she's been awesome. That was probably the only time that's ever happened to me. And I know she went from being on the fence about enrolling you in my program in the beginning to nowadays she texts me whenever she has questions. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe can you just give a quick introduction on yourself, like where you went to school or where you go to school, what year you are currently, and where you're going to be working this summer?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is John. I go to Lehigh University. So not really a target school, but I was very interested in going into investment banking. And my mom found the Facebook group during the summer. So I was an incoming junior at Lehigh University, and I was very interested in getting that junior year summer internship for investment banking because most of the time that could lead to a full-time opportunity. So I knew I really wanted to go investment banking. Once my mom showed me the Facebook page, I was able to see the free Facebook group that Sam offers to all of any student who wants to join, including moms. And on that Facebook group, there's a lot of different information regarding what's going on in the markets every Monday, as well as other information relevant to students who are looking to go investment banking. So it's definitely a very good resource to use, and I still use it every day to keep up with the news and what's going on in the world.
Nice. And so you're currently a junior, right? And
yeah.
And where are you going to be working this summer?
Yeah, so this summer I just accepted an internship at Stifel. I'm working in New York City. I'm very excited to work there. The culture is amazing, and it's exactly what I want to be doing, investment banking. It's client-facing, everything. So I'm very thrilled, and the program definitely helped me a lot with that.
Awesome. And so just so people have a rough sense of your profile, like how much relevant experience did you have when you first started working with me?
Okay, so I'm a double major in finance and accounting. So I had some financial skills with modeling stuff in terms of work experience. I'm very involved in school, and I had an internship the past 2 summers in wealth management. So I did have some experience, but I didn't have any experience exactly in investment banking. And I knew some of the technicals that were required for investment banking interviews, but I didn't know nearly all the questions that'll be thrown at me during some of these super days that are very challenging. So I had some experience, but definitely not enough if I was to go into a super day at that moment before I joined Sam's program.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, you did PWM, private wealth, to the last 2 summers after your freshman and sophomore year. You've also started your own chess business before, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Chess player. And then on campus, what are some of the clubs that you participated in?
So I co-founded the cryptocurrency club 2 years ago. I'm also a track fellow, which at Lehigh, I go over other students' writing and also public speeches, and I give them advice. I'm also president of the chess program, and I'm also involved in Greek life and in the social chair of my fraternity.
Okay, cool. So you're definitely a well-rounded guy involved in a lot of different things. Cool. So thanks for the introduction. That's awesome. So
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
I know it's been a few weeks since you first got your offer, and obviously you and I know that statistically only around 1% or thereabouts, 1% of the applicants actually get jobs in investment banking or at a legitimate bank like Stifel at least. And so you are now a part of that 1%. So how are you feeling right now? Like, have you had time for that to sink in, and have you done anything to celebrate since you've signed the offer? Can you just kind of describe the place you're at right now?
Yeah, for sure. So before I got my offer, I was constantly networking. It was basically a second job to school, and I was spending a lot more time focused on actually networking, recruiting than a lot of my schoolwork. So I was spending a lot of time doing that. And then there's a lot of nights where I wouldn't really be sleeping much. And I was so involved with the program. I had all these interviews. There was one week where I had 8 interviews. So I was working very hard. I was always communicating with Sam, telling him everything that was going on. Every single day there was something I was doing for recruiting for investment banking. And then after I signed my offer with Stifel, probably around 2 to 3 weeks ago at this point, I've been super relieved. I've had a lot more time to focus on schoolwork. I've been hanging out with my friends. And so I had my super day Friday afternoon. And Friday night, I got a phone call saying I got accepted for the internship. And later that night, one of my best friends and I drove all the way to Boston to watch the Red Sox and the Yankees play. I'm a big Yankee fan. And the Yankees ended up winning that game. The Red Sox are obviously won the World Series, but that was a few weeks ago. And it was a lot of fun. Like, we drove through the whole night all the way from New York to Boston, and we were super excited. And it was a great way to celebrate getting an offer.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That was at Fenway, right?
Yeah, it was at Fenway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a historic park. Cool, man. Okay, so obviously it's great to be here on the other side of recruiting with the offer in hand, which is where most of the people who are listening to this want to end up, obviously. So can you take us back to kind of the beginning of your recruiting process, right? Like, I don't know how early you started thinking about going into banking. Was it like your freshman year, sophomore year? Like, when did you know you wanted to do banking?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to go into finance, but for investment banking in particular, it was probably my sophomore year. But I didn't really know that many bankers. I just knew what the job entailed, and I was started getting interested in it. But then I made a LinkedIn and everything. I started going on LinkedIn, and I started looking more into investment bankers. There's one friend or one dad who's his son I teach chess to, who's an investment banker. Is probably the only one I really know at a personal level. But that's when I developed my interest. But it was not until the summer between my sophomore and junior year where I really started reaching out to a lot of bankers and started networking heavily.
Okay, so really summer between sophomore and junior year, and then we all know that nowadays the recruiting timeline with the banks are kind of crazy. Like, a lot of banks are actually recruiting during sophomore year, right? So you started
Yeah,
from that standpoint, you started relatively late. Like, you probably missed
yeah,
a part of
for
recruiting
sure.
with some of the banks who went early, right?
Yeah, a lot of the bulge bracket banks, they recruit from a lot of target schools in like February or March of the sophomore year. So I was definitely a little bit late, and I wasn't really aware of that. And I had finals during that time period. So I definitely was late to the program, but I was still able to step up my game and work very hard in the limited time I did have, because our recruiting process is definitely starting earlier and earlier every year. And the earlier you start, the more opportunities you have for different varieties of banks.
Yeah, yeah. So in the beginning, I mean, before you found me, like, what were the resources that you were using back then, or like, how did you go about, learning about all the things you need to do and how to do it and what the recruiting process is like? How did you figure all that out?
Yeah, so it was a lot more difficult, to be honest. So with Sam's program, it's very structured, and he's there to guide you since he's seen countless students do it beforehand, and he also did it himself. So before I joined his program, I remember our first call, he asked me what I was doing, and I told him that I sent out maybe like 10 or 11 emails trying to get, or also try to connect with people on LinkedIn. So I wasn't like, I was trying, but I wasn't nearly putting in as nearly much effort as I could have. And through the program, with Sam's help with networking and all, I was able to do much better. And I sent way more than like hundreds of emails. And beforehand, I was just reaching out on LinkedIn, searching up people, finding some alumni who went to my school, but I didn't really understand how to properly network until I joined Sam's program. I was very like up in the air, sending out cold emails, not really knowing how to structure them properly. My response rate wasn't nearly as high. I was sort of out in left field, but I knew I wanted to get there, but I didn't really have the coach to help me get there.
Got it. And do you remember our first call that we had? This is before you had decided to work with me. That free strategy session that we did where, I was trying to figure out where you are at in the process, learn about your situation. And then I think I asked you, what do you feel like your chances are of getting into investment banking from where you were sitting at the time? Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I think I said like 50%.
Yeah, you said,
and then you laughed.
You said 45%.
Yeah, I said 45%.
Yeah.
And then you laughed. And then because like statistically, 1% of applicants get this job, and I was here sending out 10 emails, and I thought my chances were 45%. So I was a little bit far off. But
but that's pretty.
I ended up getting there.
Yes, you did,
Yeah.
But that's pretty common, right? Which is, I bring that up because, back then you told me 45%. Obviously, you felt pretty good about your chances. What that told me was that you were confident or actually, in fact, what you said was you were pretty confident that as long as you got an interview, you would be able to do well in it, right? But then what you weren't confident about was your ability to be able to get interviews. Because you were coming from a non-target school and you didn't really have any alumni from your school that were in investment banking, right? So can you talk a little bit about, kind of how good you thought your interview skills were back then versus where your interview skills are now that you've gone through the program? Like, do you see a difference in terms of the quality of your answers and kind of like, what was the biggest thing that changed, if anything?
Yeah. So I think one of the largest components of the interview process that is a lot of times misinterpreted is that a lot of people think they're very good at behavioral interviews. And it's very easy to think that because when you're going through a behavioral interview, they're asking a question and there's not necessarily any right or wrong answer. You're just giving your response. However, I always thought I was very good at behavioral interviews. I would always give my response. I would smile, and I would give something that would make sense and tell a little bit about myself. And I thought I had a pretty good experience coming into the interviews. However, after I went through Sam's program and working through the behavioral component, I realized telling your story is much more than that, and that finding a structure is very important. And Sam's program helps you with the behavioral interview because after a behavioral interview, there's no way to know whether you did a good job. So it's not like a technical question where there's a specific answer. You're telling your story and there's a right way to present that story. And Sam, after understanding a lot about your past experiences, along with your own personal work and your effort, you guys together can help create a story that not only tells you about yourself, but it's also relevant to the task needed and the skill set needed for investment banker. So that's one thing that I definitely was not aware of. Like I was telling my story, but I didn't really know how to tailor it towards investment banking. And Sam helped me a lot with that and helped me start from the beginning in my interest in business. And then furthermore, I'm a double major in finance accounting. I knew a lot of technicals coming in, but with Sam's program, it's very clear all the technicals that you have to know. And also, if you ever have any questions, you can always text him or hop on a call with him about any technicals. You always answer you. And from someone who's worked in the industry for a long time and has very relevant experience, you know that you're going to get accurate results. But also just in terms of interviewing and everything, it's like however much work you want to put in, that's the amount of results you're going to get. So if you want to go in and make sure that your story is perfect and you're going to work with Sam for how many hours you plan to do, you're going to get good results. But if you plan to join the program and not really care that much about interviews and not put the work in, you're not going to get the same results as if you put 110% in.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, how often would you say that you and I, talk to each other like on a weekly basis? We probably.
I would say that like in my text messages, you're either 1, 2, or 3 at all times. I mean, I don't know how it was necessarily with like every client, but like I made sure that like if I had questions, I would ask him in weekly basis. So there'd be office hours once a week, and I always went to them. They're 2 hours. But besides that, so like it really depends on the week if I had interviews. But I would definitely talk to him probably over text is different, but I would call him maybe once or twice a week for maybe 20 minutes apiece, and I would text him throughout the day. Like I would talk to him as much as like maybe more than some of my best friends. Like it was funny, but it was well worth it. It's like your career, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, to answer your question, it's like how it is with other clients. I think, John, you were definitely one of the most proactive clients when it came to just like your recruiting and really like controlling your own fate. Like I think a lot of people that are successful in life or in career or whatever, they have a genuine belief that the outcome is within their control, right? So typically people like that, they put in a lot more work into it. They know that as long as they put in the work, they're going to get the outcome they want. I think there's a second type of people who are generally less successful or not successful at all, which is they don't think that they don't truly believe that they are in control of their own destiny, right? So the second type of people, like they will make more excuses. They think that things are happening to them, right? Like external. It's like, is the point of control external or is it internal, right? And you want to believe that the point of control is internal, meaning you actually have a direct impact on the outcome. And I think you did a really good job of that because, yeah, you were always hitting me up with whatever questions you had, and you really made sure you leveraged the relationship that we had to ensure you had a successful outcome, right? So that was that was a job really well done on your part.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's see, like what and I know like the first thing that we worked on when we started working together was your resume, right? Like we wrote your resume a good amount. Like, so can you talk about that experience a little bit? Like, how did you feel about your resume coming in, and then how did you feel about it afterwards?
Yeah, so going in, I thought my resume was amazing. I thought it couldn't get any better. I spent a lot of time on it. And then I sent it over to Sam. And then I remember opening up a Word document that he sent back later that day. He spent like probably 3 to 5 hours straight just working on it and helping me with it, and after we had a phone call. And I remember there was 167 comments on my resume that I thought was perfect going in. So obviously it wasn't perfect, and I was wrong. But so after we went through the phone call, and it wasn't just like he made these comments and then I was there to figure them out. We went through each and every single 167 comments. He explained to me actually like how you want to present the information that you had, the order in which you want to do it, and which, like, 'cause you have so many different experiences. He took some out that were previously on there, emphasized the real estate certain sections depending on which ones are more relevant to investment banking. In coming out, my resume, I'm very confident with it now. All the space my resume is utilized extremely well. It shows, like, if you look at my resume, you could see I thought very hard in every single word that was put on each line. And having that resume got my foot in the door at so many different banks. And that resume is really the first step. So that's the first thing that they look at. And you can be rejected the first step just because you're not a decent resume. And having a resume that'll make you stand out, especially from the perspective of an investment banker, and Sam, having worked in investment banking and having worked in the recruiting process, knows what they're looking for when they're looking at resumes. So having a person like that on my team, I was very confident, and it worked out really well, where afterwards I got a lot of first-round interviews for my resume, and the next step from there is interviewing skills. But my resume now, I'm very confident, and I'm very happy that was the first thing that we did, because it made me a lot more confident going with the process moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, which is people don't realize this, but a lot of times I think there's actually a huge psychological aspect to having a good resume, right? Because now when you have a good resume that you're really confident in, when you walk into that room and you see your resume is already in front of the banker that's interviewing you, it just makes you feel more confident, right? When you feel more confident, your mindset is good and you're going to interview and perform better, right? So not only is it like getting your foot in the door, but I don't know, at least for me back when I was a candidate, like I looked at my resume and I was like, okay, like this is in good shape. Like I felt better, right? I felt better about myself as a candidate, even though I'm still the same person, really. So, okay, so that's cool. So we covered a lot. We covered like resume, we covered networking, we covered interviews. I think we kind of touched on like all the major things that we worked on. So like, what would you say to people who maybe, have some reservations about like whether working with me is actually effective or not? Like, do you think this program made a difference for you on the outcome you were able to get to? Or do you think like you probably still could have done something similar on your own? Any like last words of advice for people who are still going through the process now, or like maybe words of encouragement for other people who maybe also go to a non-target school like you, and maybe they feel like they have no hope, right? Like if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So for that question, I'll just say whether you think you're going to get it is solely dependent on how much effort you're willing to put in. So if you want to join the program, I would only recommend joining if you're willing to put the effort in. And if you're willing to put the effort in, the results you get will be there. Because the amount of time that you're spent is going to be way more productive and efficient if you join the program, because you're with someone who not only worked in the industry, but has also helped other clients get into these investment banking positions. So he would tell you exactly what to focus on. So whereas before, you might like have the passion and your energy and spirit might be there, but you don't really know what to work on. So as far as like it's very structured, the whole program, you know exactly during which week what you're working on. You always have someone to talk to. And just having a coach on your team is always an important aspect and always helps with performance. And in terms of the other question of like whether I think it was worth it, I definitely think it was worth it for me, since like I got a internship out of it. But I would definitely say if you think that you're doing it right without any help, you can't really say for sure until you're actually putting the effort in. Like I thought I was doing a good job before I met Sam and I knew I wanted to do investment banking. I thought just reaching out to a few people was enough, but I really didn't know where I was up against until I joined the program. And I didn't realize like investment banking, there's a reason why only 1% of the people get it. And it's simply because it's a very, you have to be very smart and skilled to get the job. And if you want to end up having it, you have to be resourceful and you also have to put in the work. So through Sam's program, I definitely put in the work, and I use Sam as a very good resource, but I was willing to do that. So I'm very happy with my results, and I would definitely recommend the program. But you can't just think you're going to join and then you're 100% going to get the job you're applying to. He will be there for you and he will be an excellent resource, but as long as you put in the work and you work alongside him. He's not going to do the work for you, but he will definitely help you a lot, and you'll definitely have a GPS knowing where you're going and how you're going to obtain the job. So that's my 2 cents. But definitely have a good head on your shoulder and keep your heads up. Like, it's a difficult process, but there's always going to be a silver lining. You're going to end up somewhere, and Sam can definitely help you get there.
Awesome, man. Well, look, again, I think, coming from a non-target school, we already know acceptance rate industry-wide is about 1%. For someone coming from a non-target school, it's probably even much lower than that, right? And so the fact that, you were able to get this job and break in, I would like to believe that I certainly had a part to do with it, but overall, obviously, the bulk of the credit still goes to you for, putting in the hard work, putting in the time, being proactive, being committed, being resourceful, being coachable, and just going out and executing like I said you did, right? So, again, congratulations on a job well done, right? And I'm honored to have had you in the program and have been able to get to know you. And I know we'll continue to be friends, obviously, for a very long time. But I appreciate you for taking the time today to talk to everyone. And I know you're really busy with school and all the different activities you're involved in. So appreciate you coming on here and sharing your experiences and advice with other students. We're still going through the process. And unless you have anything else, I think we can sign off here.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, likewise. All right, I'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
All right, guys, and so that's the interview with John. And for those of you who are recruiting right now, regardless if you go to a target school, non-target school, yes, it's easier if you go to a target school, but I think John is living proof that it doesn't matter where you go to school, really, right? What matters is knowing exactly what you need to do, how to do it, when to do it, what order to do it in, and then even not just knowing all of that stuff, but being able to, or being willing to put in the time and effort to make it one of the number one priorities in your life, right? Because that's literally what's going to take for you to get the job. So, if you want to get similar outcomes like John did, and you feel like you need help with recruiting, and you're interested in seeing if I can help you, then I will encourage you to go and book a call with me. Okay, you can book a call at www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. And the street is actually not spelled out, it's ST. So wallstmastermind.com/apply. And then just on the call, I'm going to, ask you about your situation and learn more about you and your experiences and what you've done up to this point, and see what you need help with. And then we can figure out if it's something I'll be able to help you with. Okay. So that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.